Not a lot of supercars news this weekend, but a lot of supercars adjacent news. What am I here to talk about? Episode 2 of 7cylinders news. This is the weekly video series that I do that recaps all the news in supercars, other major Australian and New Zealand series, and major categories all over the world. If you like this video and you want to see more of this series, give a like and a subscribe. The support would be very much appreciated. And if you want to see the news more on a breaking news sort of style, go onto my TikTok where I will upload most of this on the daily. So onto the supercars news. I've only got really 4 topics to talk about, and only one of them is directly to the AGP weekend, but it's all supercars adjacent news. The first one being that the owners of Grove Racing, Brenton and Stephen Grove, will be competing at the World Endurance Championships 24 Hours of Le Mans this season. They'll be competing alongside Lucas Stoltz, who is a part of that Bathurst 12-hour dream team, with Jules Gounon and Kenny Habul. He is the third man. They'll be competing for the Italian team Iron Lynx and a Mercedes AMG GT3. Now, this is one of the invite cars. Le Mans has a few select cars that they are invite cars. I'll talk about more later on in the show. But this is one of those. Iron Lynx got this for, I think, doing well in the 2024 European Le Mans Series, winning the LMGT3 title. So good luck to those two, and they will also join another Pro-Am Australian driver, Yasser Shahin, who's actually doing the full season of World Endurance Championship with BMW WRT. If you want to know what that car is, just look for the car with the bend on the side. The second is 2 supercars drivers being super subs. This weekend is the Race of Champions at Sydney. It's just a big weekend where some of the more popular best drivers from different countries come to one spot to drive different cars. I know Valtteri Bottas is going, Sebastian Vettel, Will Brown, and now Brodie Kostecki and Chaz Mostert. Chaz Mostert is replacing Mattias Ekström, who is a Swedish rallycross and touring car star. That team was meant to be Team Sweden, but because of Ekström having this illness, he will be on Team All-Star with probably the best rallycross driver in the last 20 years, Johan Kristoffersson. Brodie Kostecki, however, is for more of an emergency reason. Cyclone Alfred is happening, I think I'll upload this on Friday morning, so as we speak, so good luck, best of luck to everyone involved. It'll be sometime on Friday I upload this. But he will be replacing Jamie Whincup, who has been directly affected because of Cyclone Alfred, so he will not be able to go to Sydney this weekend. But I wish both of these drivers the best of luck for the weekend. Toyota has affirmed that they will be running 4 cars for 2026. 4 cars for 2 teams, and they are in advanced talks with the second team. Who do I think it'll be? Well, I think it'll be either Premier Racing or Team 18 getting that second Toyota seat, and it'll be the team that doesn't get the GM homologation spot is what I think will happen. And just the final bit of news for supercars, Cameron Hill will be running a different livery at Albert Park. He's got Rabble on the side of the car. Purple and black work very well, and those just hints of red just make the car just stand out just a bit more. I don't know, the white just sort of ruined. This was going to be a 9 out of 10 livery, but I've bumped it down to 7.5 because of the white on the car. 3 series around Australia with bits of news in the last week. James Moffat will be back in Trico Trans Am for 2025. He is the 2023 champion and came this close to beating Todd Hazelwood in 2024. So he is back to retain his crown, and he has in fact got a familiar sponsor. It's the same sponsor that he ran in on his TCR Renault Megans. Jaden Ojeda will be back in GT World Challenge Australia. Now as an AMG factory driver, he will be running alongside Paul Luchetti, who he ran with last season quite successfully as well for Tagani Racing. And Jackson Evans is also back in GT World Challenge. He will be running in the Ferrari again for Arise Racing GT alongside Elliott Shute. And it is one of 2 cars from that stable. And finally, Lockie Dalton will be running full-time in the Australian GT4 series, alongside fellow Tassie Ben Newman in a Mercedes. They ran in the last 2 rounds of last year's championship, so it's cool to see them back to try and get the silver AM title this year. And finally, this week's news is more covered by rest of the world stuff. The Monaco Grand Prix has now got a mandatory 2 pit stops just to spice up the race, just get a bit more interesting in what is usually quite a dull race. The Qatar 1812 kilometre has been and gone for WEC, and it was a Ferrari washout, clinching all 3 spots on the podium in hypercar. The 4th car was actually quite a surprising one. It wasn't Porsche, it wasn't Toyota, it was a BMW. They've had quite a bit of speed in that car, both in IMSA and the World Endurance Series. Can they keep this up? I mean, they've got K-Mag as one of their pilots, Kevin Magnussen, so it could be possible. The best LMGT3 car was actually a Chevrolet. TF Sport won that class, and it's a good start for a team that finished with the best points result of 10th. Number 59, that was last season by the way, number 59 McLaren finished in 2nd, and the number 31 BMW finished 3rd, which is Yasser Shahin's BMW. Some more WEC news for Le Mans. There will be 3 extra hypercars on the grid, 2 Cadillacs and a Porsche. The Porsche will be an extra Penske Motorsport car that will be the number 4 car. One of the Cadillacs is the usual Whelen Engineering Action Express car, the number 311, and the 3rd car will be making its debut in the hypercar class. Wayne Taylor Racing, who has been running these sort of cars for many years, will be going to Le Mans for the first time since I think the early 2000s, but the first time in the hypercar class, bringing the number 101 car, and I hope he brings a livery as well, because it's a very striking livery on this car this year. IndyCar started out their season last weekend. Scott McLaughlin did have an issue on Friday, but came back on Saturday to get the first pole of the season. The Fast 6 was actually covered by half of New Zealand, so good strong result for the Kiwis in qualifying. But it was actually a Spanish win for the IndyCar race at St. Petersburg. Alex Palou, the champion, 3-time champion, picked up where he left off and won at St. Petersburg. His teammate Scott Dixon, the modern day GOAT of IndyCar, finished 2nd, and Joseph Newgarden finished 3rd, with McLaughlin finishing 4th. And at Circuit of the Americas, the NASCAR Xfinity season started their 3rd race of the championship. Trackhouse prospect Connor Zilic actually got the pole, got a penalty, fell back to the early 30s and battled through the pack to catch up to his new teammate Carson Kvapil to beat him on track. And he also beat Ross Chastain, Riley Herbst and Daytona 500 champion William Byron, who was in a Hendrick car. And this is his 2nd Xfinity Series win ever. If you know, he actually won his first ever race at Watkins Glen. And as for the Cup Series, it was actually a 23-11 racing front row lockout with Reddick ahead of Wallace. It would be a mix of clean racing and whatever Ross Chastain did at turn 1. If you're wondering how Connor Zilic went in what was his Cup Series debut, it ended up in the gravel after trying to avoid a spinning teammate, Daniel Suarez. Towards the end of the race, it would be a fight between Busch, Bell and Byron, the 3 Bs. Kyle Busch is on a 50-plus race losing streak, and the other 2 are the only 2 winners of the series so far. And it was actually Christopher Bell that would get over Kyle Busch because of tyre strategy, and it would be 2nd win in a row for old Christopher. If you're wondering how SVG did in what was a race where he was a favourite, because of some odd strategy where they left him out long and he just faded back at the last restart, he would end up finishing 6th, but he did jump up to 18th in points after being in the 30s after the first few weeks. Some more NASCAR news. During that race actually, Austin Cindric spun Ty Dillon on lap 4 on the main straight intentionally. NASCAR does not like it when you spin drivers with obvious intention, and he got a $50,000 fine and 50 points. You're thinking that's not a lot. That's the equivalent of a full race win basically. You get 60 points for a win, he got a 50-point penalty. Chase Briscoe's penalty from Daytona has in fact been reversed. He got a penalty for modifying the spoiler, him and his team, and it was a $100k fine, 100 points, and James Small, his crew chief, who is an Aussie, was suspended for 4 races, but now that has been reversed, so he gets his points, gets his money, and gets his crew chief. In this week's race at Phoenix, there will be 1 extra car on the grid. Some of my favourite cars, the open cars, do pop up here and there, and I hope there is more of them this year. This weekend it will be Live Fast Motorsport in the number 78 Chevrolet. They will have Catherine Legg in the car, being the first female driver in the Cup Series since Danica Patrick in 2018. How do I think this car will go? Well, it's the slowest car with the driver with the least amount of Cup oval experience, so I don't think this car will do well at all. I think if she finishes in the top 30, it'll be a massive achievement, sort of like a win. And the final bit of news is a bit sad because the Australian F2 driver Christian Mansell has decided to step away from motor racing for a wee bit. He was intended to start his full-time debut in F2 for Road & Motorsport at Albert Park next weekend. He did drive in the last part of the Formula 2 series for Trident last year after finishing 5th in F3. But for no given reason, he is pulling out of motorsport for the time being. So I hope for his sake, he is doing okay. So there is the news for this week in motorsport and supercars. If you like this video and you want to see more, like I said, subscribe. It's down there. It's completely free and also supports me and makes me want to do more of this stuff. And I will see you in next week's news video.